You know what's a trap?
What?
The desire for constant improvement.
Yeah, that's definitely a trap.
Because, I mean, it applies to many facets of life. But what I find myself constantly doing is tinkering with the tiniest details to try to improve things. Like I'm still looking at which colors look the best reflecting off my face. So then I'll be like looking through the different hues and just adjust things just by decibel for no reason.
There's no such thing as constant improvement, is there? Not
Is
really.
there though? Not really, right?
Not really. Not really. I was talking to UG Rose last night. We were talking about yin versus yang and how the culture we're in is kind of stuck on yang. So it's always up. It's up, 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 more, grow, grow, grow. But no penis can be permanently growing.
You've seen mine though.
Permanently growing. The Council of Prague don't know what to do about Pierre's huge displacing dong.
Yes, and I think maybe it's at a point where it can't grow any further. Not mine particularly, but the culture's dong.
Well,
so now, it's no longer a progressive up. It's like, let's just cut it off.
Possibly, like, in a way that is going to really affect all of our lives very soon, which would be economically. The dong of the dollar dong can't keep growing and growing and growing. And you can give it Viagra like they did last year and pump a bunch of exogenous currency into the system. But all that does is create inflation. You're just devaluing the dollar. So it's a bit of a maybe we should learn that it's not always party time, that sometimes it's like, you breathe in and you breathe out.
Not in the West, baby. In the USA, party in the USA, as Miley Cyrus said. It's never over. It just keeps going and going.
Forever, a-dever.
But, it's like that statistic of what, like some crazy percentage, like 30% of the US's money was printed last year. Was it like something like that?
35% of a particular bill, possibly a $20 bill that is in circulation was printed in 1 year by the Fed, which is, everybody should be a little concerned about that. Like that's not, I'm not an economist, but I don't think anybody would be like, yeah, that's a sign of an economy that's really doing well and is gonna be around for another 10 years. They're almost acting like they don't expect this economy to be around forevermore.
Right. So, I mean, what other choices do they have? I mean, like, it's so dumb when you look at it, because like everybody knows what happens right after, but then we just do it anyway. It's a symbolic gesture to try to save the hole in the boat.
I don't really know. Obviously, I'm plugged into, as you are, the alternative media, and there's this idea that they're deliberately trying to create a crash, deliberately trying to create a crisis so that we can just shift the system to a more of a digital based system where our transactions would be more controllable and more trackable. Maybe, I mean, it could be like part intentional conspiracy and partly just this is the way capitalism goes. Like,
well, yeah, maybe it's part of the step. It's part of the plan. Like, let's just print a bunch so then it'll crash on our behalf, and that way we have the method to solve everything, which is robot encapsulating slaves or something like that.
Yeah, the problem reaction solution model. Oh no, what will we do about this terrible crisis? Well, we just happen to have a pre-made solution for you here. And then it gets rolled out and everybody's like, oh, thank God you've saved us again. How wonderful. Oh, great state.
I just got off another video of a young girl talking about the I Don't Dream of Labor movement. She wasn't necessarily partisan. It's like she wasn't like leaning on one end or the other, but she was kind of like trying to analyze the current movement with young YouTubers pushing for this thing.
What's I Don't Dream of Labor? Tell.
I mean, it's kind of what it sounds like. They just don't want to fucking work. Like it's a reactionary movement against hyper hustle culture.
Okay.
So the opposite of that is let's just get money to live without working for it as much.
Oh, communism.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's currently what's pushing forth with the young generation, which
One
it
more
makes
way in
sense.
which the young generation is being radicalized to think that socialism and communism is a wonderful, wonderful idea. What do young people not like doing? Work. What should we tell them? If they sign up for this, they'll never have to work again. Oh, they love it. They fucking love it. Well, of course they fucking do.
Yeah, 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 and I think Elon Musk's wife now, Grimes, the artistic one, the artistic musician one, also publicly said like AI is the best route to communism and was fighting for it. Like not against it. She wasn't saying like this is the easiest route. No, she was kind of more like if you guys want something a bit more socialist, AI is the best way to go about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree with her that the problem of communism is you can never really know who's doing what. So Marx would have said, from each according to his abilities and to each according to his need. Who decides that? You always end up with like a bureaucracy that's corrupt and evil. But if you had a loving overlord supercomputer, I'm saying that ironically because we've moved into a period where people don't understand sarcasm anymore. It's not loving; it's a horrendous idea. But a machine of loving grace that watches over us, that would be a solution. So if you want communism, really artificial intelligence is the only way to do it.
Yeah.
And you need to be completely tracked at all times.
Dude, let's talk about this one subject that we've glazed over before, but we haven't fully dove into it. And that's okay. So, for example, if this if this neo futuristic glazing communism socialism thing comes in, right? Or for example, maybe not so extreme. Say if even it could be as far as universal basic income,
Right.
and people don't want to work as much, which is already happening. People like don't even want to show up to work anymore because they just get a paycheck.
Yeah.
I remember we were talking about, you brought this up. There aren't enough jobs or tasks to really perform anymore because all of these robots are basically taken over it. What happens to a person's subjective life and also collectively if we're at a stage, which is what we're approaching now, where we don't need to do these menial jobs that robots can easily do in 2 seconds?
Well, do you mean what would happen like psychologically or what would happen practically?
All of it. All of it.
I mean, these are the kinds of things they pay millions to think tanks to try and figure out ahead of time,
Right.
to foresee the problems. Straight off the bat, depression, because rightly or wrongly, we have internalized what is known as a Protestant work ethic. So people who aren't working, some people will just not work, take their UBI check and be fine. But a lot of people will really fucking struggle. Like their self-image is rooted in work. I couldn't live with it. I couldn't live with it.
Totally. And that's actually the main one that I wanted to explore, like the psychological elements of this, because I feel as if we're in a pseudo version of it already. And I was even thinking, for example, even for as young as some, but like a 15-year-old girl or boy living now, they're basically living that life. They don't have to work yet. They just go to school, do some homework maybe, and most of the time they just play video games or just like social media or whatever. And they're not collecting a paycheck necessarily. And like that's kind of a foreshadowing of, I think, where we will go collectively if we don't have the requirement to work at all.
Were you suggesting that the reason why some 15-year-olds are depressed is because they're already plunged into this kind of socialism?
Right. I mean, like the mental health crisis for these age groups are like insane as well. You know,
this is where you need the full qualified panel in a think tank, because that takes you off in another direction, which is a very interesting direction, which is on the education front. Have we set the bar in some ways too low for children and in some ways weirdly too high? Where it's my just to throw my personal opinion in real quick, all this stuff with exams and grades, that's way too high. We examine kids way too much, way too young. Homework, way too high. having kids sit in school and give them no hands-on work experience, that's setting the bar far too low. Because by the time you're 15, I mean, historically speaking, not to sound like some old codger, but I didn't. I did what you just said. I just was living socialism. I didn't worry about food. It was given to me and shelter, and I just studied. But I would have been perfectly capable of being an apprentice or being on a job or learning on the job. So it's interesting. But yes, I think that's a valid point, is that they're already kind of living that, and it's shit. I just think it's shit for kids. I think the education system is a big pile of shit.
Yeah, you're right. At one point, it demands way too much for very little practical reward. You get a grade.
It's just stress. It's just an enormous amount of stress, dude, for very little meaning.
I had straight A's at the end of high school. The next few years at college, I dropped immensely, like fucking got a bunch of C's or whatever.
Was that the acid, yeah?
Yes. And then I realized,
I'm not saying correlation is causation.
Education, like brick wall, or the wall by Pink Floyd, it's just like, that type of thing. But my life didn't shift when I got the good grades and when I didn't get the good grades. Like, those letters were ultimately meaningless. It did not evaluate any direction in where I'd take my life.
Yeah. There's something, well, it's perverse. I mean, if I take myself back to the subjective experience of being a child and being put through exams, I would argue the case that it fractures children. It fractures their consciousness. It distracts them. It's a torturous process. Yeah. And it's not how people learn. Like, that's not how the human animal learns anything. So you end up with this kind of like maybe traumatic reaction formation, or better put, like coping mechanisms to get you through school and to get you through homework and to get you through the exams. But you're not raising the child's intellect like that. You're not raising their creativity like that. It's right. It's barbaric, really. I understand, like, I understand the logic why we do it, but it doesn't make it any less shite.
Okay, before we get too off topic though, so imagine like you have a bunch of these kids or whoever the hell, like they didn't even go to school. You know, I mean, imagine they just didn't at all.
Okay.
Like, that is ultimately leading to a whole demographic going through an early existential crisis, and then in a collective scale for people without jobs, which is almost a similar thing. Having that 9 to 5 or even whatever else, it's like obviously it's shitty, but I think in a grander scale, it keeps some sort of equilibrium,
Well, yes. So if you table the question, which is the lesser of two evils, given the infrastructure in which we live, yes, it's the lesser of two evils to go to school. And I think that's why parents keep sending their kids to school, because they're like, well, what else do you do with them?
Right. And
so it is the lesser of two evils for sure.
And obviously, like, when you have to work to make money and do shit you don't like, obviously it's terrible. And like, I was there too, and it's a shitty situation to be in. But when you look at it in a more grander sociological scale, it forces people to provide a service to the collective. Otherwise, or most of the time, maybe not, I don't know. But otherwise, there's not really an external incentive to give back or be somehow part of the overall functioning system at all. You know what I mean?
Yes, you're talking about the need for some sort of sense of contribution.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we've been missing that. We've been missing that for a long time, and it just occurred to me, it's extremely fucking cheeky of the governments to be saying to these kids now, because they saw all this coming, there's no jobs for you anymore. Meanwhile, they were encouraging the kids to go to university to get them jobs. That's what the British government asked me to do when I worked in the education system. They asked me to work for a government-sponsored project called Aim Higher, and they wanted me to go to the schools and tell the kids in 2005, 2006, go get a university degree, you'll get a better job. And I was like, but I've just been through the graduate recruitment system. That's not fucking true. These kids are going to get junk degrees from junk universities, and nobody will want them. No, just tell them anyway. And I was like, fuck you, I'm not telling them that. And all it does is it gets them into debt to the government ultimately, because your student loans company, if you look, whoever's behind the company, it's the government. You're in debt to the government. You're in debt to a government body for life, or until you can pay their debt off.
Sure. And my thought is, when, for example, if universal basic income becomes a thing, or people don't have to work these jobs that will be taken over by robot waiters and waitresses and like cashiers, or all these things disappear, the common notion, it's an easy solution to kind of come up with yourself. Like, oh, I'll be happy. I can actually like do whatever I love, which is like flip my brains out or watch Netflix all day, or I can paint. But those things are kind of, I think, only enjoyable when you have a 9 to 5 most of the time. You know what I mean? Not a 9 to 5, but you have responsibilities to cater to. The leisure becomes more leisurely because it's some sort of escape. But if imagine, the utopian vision is like everybody has a paycheck just from the get-go, which it has its benefits for sure. I don't think people should like bust their fucking ass off just to have dinner, but in the end, it's like, I don't know if it's going to end up as positive as people make it out to be.
I think if you look at like in the terms of like human evolution, and you look in terms of thousands of years, the full Marxist communist utopia is actually a good thing. I've never said that the idea is a bad idea. It's the utopianism that takes us there. We're not ready. It's always going to be a massacre. But for humans to live in, there was a guy called, I think he's a Scottish writer. He wrote a whole series of sci-fi books about this society called the Culture. And it's much like the society that spawned Star Trek. So money's not an issue. Like, they have infinite energy, they have infinite wealth, and you're left to explore the galaxy kind of thing. Sounds great. And it is our destiny. I think unless we kill ourselves, we'll get there. That's where we're going. Like, the artificial intelligence, whether it's evil at first, benevolent after the revolution in 2000 years, or there's multiple sci-fi novels that have dealt with this. That is our destiny. That is what we're moving to. Full genetic engineering of babies, population control, climate control, the whole thing. And from one perspective, it's not evil. It's like, well, yeah, we probably should be doing that. How do we get from here to there, though? And how much corruption and evil is going to be there along the way, trying to get to a good place?
Yeah. I mean, that's like going to be way farther down in our human evolution for sure. But even today, I was sitting on the river, and I randomly came across, like, you swipe left on your phone, there's some headlines, and I was like, why air travel is such a fucking pain in the ass now, as like a little 10-minute podcast section. And I want to travel, and it obviously is a headache. So I clicked on it, listened to it a little bit. And long story short, a lot of the workers in the airlines just don't want to go back to fucking work right now.
Right.
So that's already another practical consequence of a situation like this, because everybody is still feeding off of their checks or living off of their government sustenance or whatever. And there's not much of an incentive to do services, whatever those services might be. And why would you? It's like, there's no reasonable sense of like why you would want to just like twirl the fucking sticks around for fun. I would do that for fun, but like maybe like throwing
you would kill people doing it.
Maybe throwing the luggage on the conveyor belt and shit. If you already have a paycheck come in, why the fuck would you go back to work to do that?
Yeah, it's a loss. It's a loss now. I was already making that money, and now you want me to leave the house, shave, put on clean clothes at a certain time to make the same money? How about fuck you? Yeah, there's going to be loads of people who don't want it. Well, I mean, people have openly said it. It's actually been part of the mental health crisis, is people openly saying on forums and on YouTube, and some people have social anxiety now. They've spent so long inside. They don't want to go back to work. So we have done a little communist experiment. We have done a little, if you are moving people towards UBI, universal basic income, communism, full-scale tracking for everybody, this might be one way of doing it. This might be a nice little softener.
Right. So then you have two issues, one being spiritual psychological and the other one is just purely practical. Like so many, I mean, restaurants with no workers, airlines with no flight attendants, no pilots, maybe, you know, things are just not going to operate because of this utopian image here, you know.
Yeah, I think at the moment, because the sphincter has been closed, as it slowly opens, you probably would find that the people who want to work, they'll rush in first. So the airlines they're coming back to life slowly, very, very slowly. And the flights are coming back slowly, as we discussed 2 weeks ago for the Croatia, Ibiza thing. They're still not there. The initial response will be they'll have plenty of very keen staff. But as they get back to where they try and get back to where they were, they'll find that they can't. They'll find that they're going to have to go through a bureaucratic, administrative nightmare sorting wheat from chaff. And you'll have people, I know exactly how this is going to go, because even me as an independent contractor, I've already seen this. I guarantee you, people like EasyJet and what's like a low budget internal airline? No,
Ryanair.
in America. Alaska.
Spirit.
So we'll be like, okay, we got 3 flights to Texas because we're on a low one this week. But when we come back, we're going to 12 flights to Texas this week. So we were easily covered at 3 flights. We have employees waiting. We have this army of employees. You go back to 12 flights from San Diego to Texas. As you expand the sphincter and you get, you raise the numbers up. A bunch of people will say they're coming to work and they won't show. There'll be tons of no-shows. In my life, mate, of hiring people for contract work, I've never seen so many no-shows as right now. It's incredible. Yeah, I have 5 people on the go right now who I am chasing every other day, and I want to pay them. I'm like, you're not, like, you won't get paid until the, and I'm a guy. There's a guy who I've messaged 3 times today for a lot of money. Nothing. They don't want to work. Like there's going to be a spearhead of really keen people, but then the majority behind them, they won't do it. The people have just gotten out of the habit. I don't want to. I don't fucking want to work anymore.
Right. And this is what I'm trying to figure out. What happens during and after, you know? Like, we don't have enough AI and robots to do that yet.
No, Christ, no.
So in this transport period, it's going to be bad.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to overestimate what the robots can and can't do and how mechanized we are. And the only thing it takes is for a robot to break down.
Right.
Anywhere. And it's like, okay, we actually need quite a few human beings. It's fine when it works. Like if it's a factory producing cars, it's fine when it works. When a machine breaks down and you need like 20 engineers because it's a weird machine and its parts are old, and you fucking know how these things go. It's then all of a sudden you need humans again. The general move is towards mechanization. Generally speaking, all of these corporations have been slowly trying to get rid of humans because humans are expensive and they're an administrative and bureaucratic nightmare. Machines are not. They have no rights.
Yeah, exactly. One day, you never know. But and I'm thinking, okay, so in the meantime, people are dropping out because of the lack of incentive. And I think this is often a common misconception with communism, or just when you're part of a commune, everybody just does their part. Like they're going to be the one digging the holes for the poopy to fly in. You know, these people are going to be washing the dishes because out of my own heart, I want to give to the rest of the people. And it's just like so naive to even consider that, considering we've only lived maybe a few months in government checks and people don't want to service each other at all.
Well, and there's other factors there. Like I think as well, like I'm only seeing it in the last 3 weeks, but coming back to this place, coming back to Ibiza and checking the atmosphere versus 2019, people are more indolent, they're lazier, and they're angrier. And part of that is it's not just that like oh, we had a crisis and oh, we got through it. We were plucky. And it's, in the UK, they always want to compare it to World War II and how plucky Brits survived the Blitz. The Germans came over, we all hid, we sang songs, and then we rebuilt our communities. That's not what just happened. A huge number of us don't believe that the response that has cost us so much was justified. Huge numbers of people don't believe it was justified. And we all know about the transfer of wealth. We all know we just got roughly sodomized inside of 12 months.
Yeah.
The rich got massively richer and people are pissed off. They don't know where to put their pissed off energy and they're kind of shocked. They're kind of traumatized by it. And so they're just generally angry and impatient and confrontational.
So first of all, you've heard my multiple confrontations out here, right?
Yes. People, which is a very non-confrontational city.
This is top 10 safest cities. Never really get into scuffles. People have been getting in my face. Got bit by a fucking dog. Dogs get agitated during lockdown too. You know what happened yesterday? Helicopters started flying around Prague. I looked at my friend's story, and he posted a headline. I looked it up. There was a shooting in Prague.
Fuck.
In the city center, not Prague 21, like not on the outskirts.
Yeah.
There was a shooting in the city center on the streets that we've passed multiple fucking times.
Right.
Older middle-aged man. Guess where the shooting was?
Surely not Wenceslas Square.
But like what type of store?
Oh, in a store?
Not a store. It's a. I'll just tell you. It's one of those labor facilities. Like they help unemployed people try to find jobs and shit.
Oh no. It was an employee shot?
Yes, the employee got shot. Middle-aged woman. She ended up dying. And yeah, the guy set up some booby traps, and the cop got like hurt by one. Helicopter started flying around for like 2 or 3 hours. Finally arrested the dude. Prague is. I thought I was back in California. The helicopters fly around Southern California every 3 hours, and I haven't seen a helicopter in Prague in forever, man.
I'm afraid that this is the world we're moving into now. As we get our freedoms back, Russell Brand just did that video yesterday.
Talk about timing. I saw that too. Yeah.
And his focus was on air raids, right? The American Airlines, they're having record numbers of incidents. Dude, to go to the gym today, I got a taxi there and I walked back. And the number of fucking incidents you see, like a guy is trying to he's coming from a side road into the main road and he's not being let in because he just has to wait because that's the law. He's going fucking berserk and starts trying to ram the car in front of the taxi. A guy, an older gentleman, Spanish, maybe 65, is using a pedestrian walkway to cross, and the guy who wants to go through stops right next to him and beeps him. And I'm like, stood looking at this going, what the fuck, dude? First of all, that is an older man. Second of all, that's a fucking pedestrian crossing. You like 2 years ago wasn't like that. And that's, the Brits are coming. The Brits are not here yet. The Brits are coming tomorrow. And I'm thinking, fucking hell, this could be a very hot summer in every sense of the word in Ibiza, because the obviously Brits are Brits. Like, they always go fucking crazy when they go abroad. Yeah. They've been locked up for a year and a half. They're going to go fucking mental. Spanish are already not really in the best mood. Right. I think it's going to get very spicy here. Very, very spicy.
Sure, man. Not many tourists have showed up just yet. Few pockets here and there. It's been fairly okay. People are distracted enough with their toys and stuff, so everyone's a bit more okay. But during the springtime, when everything freshly came out and people weren't distracted yet, that was when it was really rough and all these incidences started happening. And I don't think it's coincidence that this dude randomly shot a woman in a labor union. What is this place called? Unemployment office.
Unemployment office. Yeah. Well, he probably was frustrated with the progression or lack of progression in his pursuit of a job. I mean, the Czech Republic and the Czech people have suffered terribly during this whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I don't know how much this will escalate. Well, I mean, it will, because guess what? Guess what headline I just fucking read today? Corona Delta, few cases in the Czech Republic, possibly looking at fall closures.
The chance of Europe not going back into lockdown when flu season starts again in the fall is very, very, very small. And people need to wake up to that fact. I keep saying that to Brits and pretty universally ignored. And I'm like, we're testing right now. What do you think happens when people get coronaviruses that are not COVID-19? What do you think is going to happen? All of a sudden, it'll be a spike of cases because we're testing everybody. You've got to go back into lockdown. I can hear Boris Johnson's speech now. It is with a heavy heart. I must tell the British people that I know that they're courageous enough to deal with the harsh reality of this, but to save the NHS, we must, blah, blah, and so on.
Yeah. It looks like those vaccines are working, huh? I love it. It's like the number one argument I get is like, well, if everybody just got the shot, these lockdowns wouldn't happen again. And you know what? I don't want to be like, well, look what happened. Look what's happened. I feel, if anything, I feel bad. If I feel kind of bad that these people think that they're gonna do a service by by getting it, then the lockdowns won't happen. And now they're just getting the brunt force of, oh, doesn't matter. We're going to do it anyways.
And can you imagine being in the position of somebody with an authoritarian leaning? You know, people who hate me and you, who'd be like, just shut the fuck up and do as you're told. Follow the science, obey, shut the fuck up and do as you're told. And then they're seeing it unravel. Yeah. And they have to hold in their head the cognitive dissonance. Not only are we all double jabbed in the UK, most people are double fucking jabbed. We've been locked down, we're masked up, businesses have closed down, and we're still gonna lock down. Like, what the fuck did we get the vaccine for then?
Yes. And then they have to wrap around the fact that the argument for it, getting it still is, well, it doesn't get rid of it. You can still catch it. It's just that your body will know how to fight it better. So you get the shot to still have the same protocols of lockdowns and business enclosures, and you still risk sickness, except you just have a bigger percentage of fighting the virus within your body, but everything else will stay the same in same patterns.
Follow the science has become follow the propaganda. People are not following the science. You know, I got told off for not getting vaccinated and traveling and this and that. And they're like, don't you understand asymptomatic transmission? And I was like, you know what? I don't. Let me go and read some scientific papers on that. Asymptomatic transmission. You know what I found? We have no way of measuring it. There is no way of measuring asymptomatic transmission. Apparently, there's no way. This is according to the BMJ. People can look this up. Published, peer-reviewed research. There's no way of measuring virulence that is readily available. So you can take a person, put them in special circumstances, and you might be able to measure the virulence that they have. But for Gen Pop, there's no fucking way of measuring the virulence in Gen Pop. And so there's no way of measuring asymptomatic transmission. It's a hypothesis. At this point, it's nothing more than conjecture. Just like the R number, just like so many of these models that they've used, these are educated guesses. They're models.
Right. And you know, it's good to look at these little details that are very important when it comes to determining the policies. But even with that there, let's look at how everything will play out regardless of that. You still get the shot practically on paper, concretely. You get a shot. Okay, you get the second shot. Okay, great. Mutation. What do you think is going to happen? Third, fourth shot, fifth shot. And then from there, it doesn't even get rid of it. So we still need to lock down anyways. So regardless of what it is and where it's going, the same policies are still put in place, and we just have to live with it, fight. I don't know.
I really don't know. I really don't know what people should what the correct course of action is. I've made my decisions. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm not doing, and I think like. Nobody's asked me. Nobody said to me, oh, you know, like, well, what, you know? So I'm like, I'll just shut the fuck up about it then, because people get very, very hot about this. I'm very excited and very upset and very passionate. And I'm just like, I don't really need the hassle. Do whatever you want. It's your health. It's your freedom. Do what you like.
If I catch corona, my body will develop antibodies to fight it off as best as it can, right? If I get the shot, it produces antibodies in a way that to fight it off as best as it can.
Yes. No cap. Straight facts.
If I get the shot, they will still lock things down. If I don't get the shot, they will still lock things down.
No cap. Straight facts.
If I get the shot, things will lock down and a mutation will happen. And from there, I would have to get another shot?
Most likely. Because of mutations. The mutations are, it mutates by 0.03%, I believe. And apparently that defeats the vaccine. I mean, look, at that point, if we're following the science, if that's really what we're saying, we must come out and just say, look, guys, this is, for fuck's sake, if this is what this...
For fuck's sake. For fuck's sake, dude.
If this is a zoonotic virus, can we stop pretending it didn't come from the Wuhan lab for SARS-CoV-2? We've got to stop pretending. Either China is deliberately releasing variants to kill the world economy, because they're growing. Their economy is the only economy that grew in 2020. Can you fucking believe that? So they're either deliberately releasing variants, or this is some kind of super duper high level ninja gain of function on steroids virus that maintains virulence and compromises nothing when it mutates, which is, in a zoonotic virus that occurs naturally, is unheard of. It's never happened before.
For fuck's sake.
We got to stop lying. We damaged our relationship with the truth. We got to stop lying. But then what? Like, if you admit that and you admit that publicly, then the public is going to be clamoring for the state to sue China for reparations. And it's a whole other fucking thing that opens up. It's a whole other thing that opens up. But at this point, I think it's inevitable. I think there's too much information out there already. So many people, like, there's tons of epidemiologists online saying this and speaking to Brett Weinstein about it. And he's having his YouTube channel censored now for talking about it. You can't even discuss antivirals at the moment, which is insane. You're only allowed to talk vaccines. You're not allowed to talk antivirals, which is fucking bonkers. It would be like the flu going round and saying nobody's allowed to take Lemsip. I know Lemsip isn't a fucking antiviral. It just deals with the symptoms. Nobody's allowed to take anything other than the flu jab. Can we please take some Lemsip? No, flu jab or fuck you.
We've been lied to so much in the last year, man. And
it's rape. It's a psychological rape, and people are mad, but they don't know where to put it. And some people are still in denial. So they're kind of mad at themselves. They're just living with the cognitive dissonance, and they're like, I don't know. I still believe the government, and I want to do my part, and I want to flatten the curve and save the NHS. But at the same time,
and then you see people visually in front of you in everyday life following them or not at the same time. You don't know where to place yourself in relation to the people around you, for the relation with you and the information that you're given. And just now interacting with the everyday world, you're just constantly reminded of this dissonance. Like, how do you live like this? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Grumpy. Grumpy as fuck.
I'm just
people know. People know. I think the unconscious knows. Like, we just got robbed. We just got really fucking robbed. And you cheered while they robbed you. You cheered and you clapped while they robbed you.
You know, it's
fucking idiot. And you're like, oh, like, how horrible would you feel?
Yeah, it's one of those things that you get a bunch of sentimental objects stolen from you that your great grandpa like gave to you, and then this thing that helps you make your living got stolen too, and somebody comes around. At least you got your health. Let me fucking process that pocket watch that I fucking lost. Don't remind me of my goddamn health. You know what I mean?
but don't worry, we've given you your freedoms back. Fucking what? You don't fucking offer me my freedoms back, you fucks. Yeah. Well, I mean, if enough people, well, I mean, it's solipsistic as well. Like, I can only say it from my individual, like, you can only say it from your individual, everybody can only say it from their point of consciousness in the world, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, if I feel this way and I'm thinking this way, you have to presume, unless you are the most ferocious narcissist, that literally millions of people are thinking the same thing. They must be. They must be.
Right. I mean, it's been a year and a fucking half, dude. It's been a year and a half of constant, proven false news, false narratives, false headlines. Things are changing every 3 fucking days, and we can prove it. It's on paper. It's right there. We literally went from, you can't bring up the idea that the virus was grown in a lab, to a year later, now everybody can talk about the fact that the virus was most likely grown in a lab. Like,
we've got Fauci publicly discussing paying for gain of function research, which they were told multiple times. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. It's too dangerous. Why? Because this is why it's too fucking dangerous.
Right. So, but you know what's hilarious? I feel like the negative outcome, I mean, this was hypothesized by first you, and obviously me too, at the beginning of the situation, that the negative outcome is coming from societal breakdown outside of the biology, the economy crashing, how we interact with each other, the political uprising, all of that fucking shit.
Well, it's not like there's piles of dead in the streets.
Right.
It's not like we all know, like, we all lost 3 family fucking members. And people would say to me, 135,000 dead. In fact, on a Tentacle Croissant video, somebody said from the UK, they said, what about the 135,000 dead? So I replied to them and I said, do you mean the 135,000 who were dead of COVID or diagnosed with a positive PCR with COVID inside of 30 days of death? And their response was to delete their comment.
Yeah.
That's the level we're at. People are on the sidelines, like, policing these policies, safeguarding these policies, enforcing these policies, saying, trust the science, trust the science. And I'm like, you can't even fucking spell science, you nitwit. You've no idea what you're talking about. You haven't even taken 5 minutes to go on Google Scholar, which is free, and look some of this stuff up. Fuck Google Scholar. Go on Reddit. There are forums that break all of this down for you, not by nutters, by epidemiologists. Go look. But no, they'll throw away their freedom. They'll throw away their lives because the TV told them. They'll do the whole fucking thing and they'll check nothing. They'll check nothing.
Yeah. And I mean, how many people die from, what do you say, state insured opioids a fucking year? How many people are hooked on painkillers that the fucking, not the government necessarily, kind of the government, but doctors legally prescribing for a fucking achy back, and people get hooked and die? Why don't we make mandates against that type of situation?
Well, it is government. It's pharmaceutical companies in league with government authorities. Certainly, government authorities. I don't know. You could say it's federal, but it's governmental. No doubt, they are in league. I mean, with insurance companies as well.
Let's throw that question out there. You can ask one group of people, how many people do you know that have been heavily affected by COVID and died from COVID? You ask another demographic, the same group.
You'd use the same
how many people do you know have been addicted to legal pharmaceuticals, using them currently, or have died from it? And let's see the disparity between those two statistics.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that for cancer, obesity, drink-related
I was thinking car accidents too, man.
Car accidents. How many people, the same research, you say, how many people do you know who died directly of or with a positive PCR test, COVID diagnosis? How many people do you know who've had their lives significantly negatively impacted by the response to the crisis? And let's see what the numbers are. And then tell me that the juice was worth the squeeze, that this response was proportionate to the threat. The thing is, everybody knows now that the people who said this is not proportionate to the threat, they know now that that's true, but they're too fucking proud to admit it. They're too proud. So they dig in. They just dig in. No. This was all necessary. The hospitals were overloaded. Loads of people died of this. All right, man.
Yeah, and that was the thing that we briefly brought up the other day. Like, how do you just swallow your pride after realizing that all of this for the last year that you were so fucking adamant about was a complete lie, and you were probably fighting for the wrong situation?
Yeah, there is no thought with it. You know, explain Florida, explain Sweden, explain them to me. If all this was absolutely necessary, explain Sweden and Florida to me. You can't. And not even Florida, like tons of US states just didn't do the lockdown. Not tons, but many US states had a lockdown that was so voluntary and so liberally applied. It was basically Sweden. It was basically the same effect as Sweden. The United States on this one did amazing. And it's made me want to leave Europe and go to America. I'm not even kidding. I want to be an American citizen now. I want to live in Florida under Mr. Ronald DeSantis as my king, because he had an adult, sane response to this.
Give it another year and see where this goes. You never know nowadays, man.
Listen, I have to go to America when the Civil War breaks out anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm gonna do a George Orwell and join in somebody else's Civil War.
Yeah, and a part of me wishes that they would take an authoritarian response to the things that I specifically would prefer. Like, I wish that they had the same authoritarian response in California about driving cars. I wish they just banned all cars, because I've been in multiple car accidents. I've known people, and I've known people that knew people who died from them. There's constant car wrecks all the time. You're stuck in traffic for 5 hours. Fuck it. Let's ban all the cars, build that public transport vaccine, and call it a fucking day. Why don't they do that? Why is it authoritarian in one specific fucking route?
Yes, it's almost as if this was more about politics than medicine.
You don't think they're here to save lives? You don't think the government cares about us?
I have a funny relationship with medicine and hospitals, and it occurred to me throughout this whole process. I have one doctor in the family, but I had a couple of girlfriends who were nurses for the NHS, and then I think I had family members who were in and out of hospital a lot, and they were terminally sick, and we were involved. You know, you speak to doctors, you speak to nurses, and I just don't see medicine and hospitals and doctors and nurses with this total blind reverence that other people seem to have. Oh, the National Health Service, bow. Oh my God, a nurse, bow. I'm like, you do know that they kill people by mistake, not because they're evil, but because that's the nature of the job. People die. I don't know what proportion it is in America. I think we discussed this here before. Jordan Peterson claimed that the third leading cause of death in America was medical malpractice. I don't know if that's true. It was.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's true, but I heard that.
But he said it. So let's assume it's in the top 10. I had a friend who was 33. He had he was a skinny guy with a kilogram tumor in his stomach, and the specialist told him it was constipation. The specialist told him, a guy whose only job is to look into people's bowels and check for cancer, was like, no, this is no. So I'm not popping off at medicine. Like, people fuck up, they make mistakes. Of course they do. They're humans. They're going to make mistakes. So I just don't have this blind reverence for medicine, and I don't have the blind reverence for science either. We're back to this point. We were talking about the SJWs and the woke movement before. Parochialism, which is a nice way of saying fucking ignorance. I think people are just fucking ignorant. They're just ignorant. They don't really know what they're talking about, but they feel passionately about it. They spurt off on Facebook. Other people support them. And they just go, well, 5 of my friends supported me, so I guess this is the truth. And I'm like, yeah, that's how it works. That's definitely fucking how truth works.
Yeah. And the thing is, my whole view on this situation is that obviously every doctor pretty much knows more than I do, and I would assume nurses know more than I do about biology. And the collective, you know, the science on how a vaccine works is probably accurate, but there's one part of the equation that these people fighting for, these, I don't know, medical practitioners always leave out, and that's politics and money and human greed, human indecency. These situations are influencing more than just the medical part here. Like you can, whoever it might be can accurately explain to me how the vaccine works on paper, but what about the situations where you get briefcases kind of slid under the table for this situation and this thing happens? Oops, the lab engineered thing. Now, oops, now that wasn't from a bat. It was from the, oh, like there's that I think is the biggest influencing factor in this whole predicament.
You just reminded me with the suitcase under the table. I had another girlfriend who was in medical sales, and a guy who I lived with for a while, he was in medical sales. So I'd get like the stories, the intricate internal stories of how sales are done inside of medicine. And I think that's another, I had actually forgotten when I was talking before, like I don't have that blind reverence. That's another reason why I don't have that blind reverence. Money, they can't, obviously it's illegal to pay directly, but let us say at some level, money absolutely exchanges hands. And there's other things other than money that can exchange hands as well.
And it's written down, it's provable. Like there's literally like a whole, I don't know, I watched this whole expose on the pharmaceutical dealers that go to hospitals. They literally go to hospitals in suits, have a briefcase full of Adderalls and Xannies and whatever the hell. And they literally make deals with the doctors. The doctors get commissions for each drug that they prescribe.
It's a little more gangster in the USA. I think we have to find in the UK we have other, you can't do that, but
no, you can't do that here. Like over here, like even my physio was like, be careful how much ibuprofen you take. I'm downing 3 of them because my back hurts.
I'm from California. Fuck you.
I was like, I'm from California.
Yeah.
Just fucking Advil, Tylenol.
You got anything stronger than this bullshit?
Yeah, that's what I was feeling. I was like, this little pink pill ain't doing shit, So yeah, they're very, very touchy with that type of shit out here. But I mean, in America, it's proven, so it does happen. Like you can't deny that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it all goes on, and I think maybe this is good. You said about the effect of UBI and people not working, and maybe they would be comfortable and they'd have a time to think. At the same time as that, adjacent to that, you have a big crisis like this, where we lose faith in our governments, our state, our institutions, and the two things collide. Okay, people are angry now. Maybe the space to think and the crisis of the moment would lead to people thinking in new ways, a little bit of an expansion of consciousness and looking at things a bit differently and going, oh, maybe the world doesn't work the way I thought it did.
Well, I think one person with that temperament goes further there. The other one just wants to close uncertainty by joining some fucking cult, joining some, whatever, some ideology or whatever, because they just can't deal with the openness of that.
Well, we may see more religiosity and more cults in the next 2 or 3 years because of the financial and cultural instability. And yes, I think people will be looking for certainty.
I need to play this, the thing that you posted with was it Sadhguru? It almost looked like Sadhguru. I don't know who that was.
It's the Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh who became Osho. It does look like Sadhguru.
Osho. Okay.
Yeah.
It basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
Just in case you missed the beginning of that, it was democracy means government by the people, for the people, of the people. But the people are retarded.
And he's in his Osho garb, bro, like just super slow, like it's like with the head bob. It's so funny. It's so fucking funny.
They are retarded. What are you going to do? They can't think. They don't know anything. They're retarded. I'm allowed to do that. My dad was born in Rawalpindi. It's all good.
You do it so well though.
Yeah,
Holy
it's in my DNA. It's in my genes. He was born in what was India, but is now Pakistan.
Did he actually say that? I want to watch that whole speech. I'm sold on Osho now, man. That's hilarious.
I think when he was speaking in the early 80s, it was before that word. There was like political about that. I think it just meant like you were set back. It's just French. It's a retardé, which means you are you're delayed in your thinking. That's. Or he was just roasting people. I don't know. He was on some George Carlin shit, banging a line of coke.
If I did pull the rock star to spiritual U-turn to fucking spiritual guru, that's how I would approach it, like that, just like that.
Right. That's perfect.
Politically incorrect spiritual enlightenment, dude.
Yeah. And it's a good point. Like,
no, I mean,
pokes holes in democracy. This whole couple of years has poked holes in democracy.
I was all for the people, by the people, and then this last fucking year, but the people are retarded.
Yeah.
Just Jesus.
You know, I think that problem goes back to ancient Greece. They were like demos, the democracy. Krasi is rule, demos is people. And then some ancient Greek philosopher, I think, said that basically means rule by the mob. You don't really want to be ruled by the mob because the mob chooses the Kardashians and butt implants.
BBLs, man. You know what that is?
No, what's a BBL?
It's a Brazilian butt lift. And it's like become so popular and so many people have died because it's like a really, really dangerous operation.
Where's the lockdown for their deaths? Where is the fucking accountability for their deaths?
This is democracy, Richard.
These people need rescuing from themselves. I just want a bigger ass. Will I inject concrete straight into my ass? Yeah.
Dude, now imagine a society of them getting universal basic income.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, but maybe this is a problem of the ages. It's just that there's so many of us now. So 200 years ago, in 1850, I think I'm right in saying we were at 1 billion people. And now, well, it's not quite 200 years ago. And 180 years later, we're at 7 billion people. That's a lot of humans, man. And there's always been idiots, obviously. Like, there's always been people who are not very bright. But there's fucking so many now. And you know this from trying to discuss things with people online. They beat you, even if you're smarter than them, because illogic and unreason defeats reason and logic every time, because they're not constrained by any sort of rules at all.
I've been trying to journal recently because there's nothing fucking else to do. So I've been doing that, and I was trying to figure out why I'm so goddamn pissed off and jaded with social media. And we've talked about this on every stream, but long story short, it's basically you join a boxing match or a sparring session, and there's combat. I like the combat. You like the combat. We can be combative people. But there's fucking rules even in boxing. In MMA, where you can elbow someone in the fucking throat. Well, I don't know if that's illegal. I think that's legal. But see, there's rules. Exactly. There's fucking rules. You can't poke a dude's eye out. No. And when you're on social media, you want to discuss things and you're open to having that discourse, that's fine. But people use illogic, unreason. Is it illogic? Is that a word? I don't fucking know. Whatever.
Unreason. Illogic. Unreason definitely is. Yeah, no, you're right, and you're not. There's no progress there because you're just two people ranting your positions at each other from a totally entrenched position. I don't know, like people say, oh, you won't debate me. And I'm like, well, if you learn the rules of debate and then stick to them, I will debate you. It's like saying to me, you won't box me, but we must be boxing. It can't just be you in the middle of the ring going, windmilling. We'll get hurt.
Right. Yes. And I was trying to figure that out because a part of me likes that friction of saying something and bringing up a point that goes against by what possibly most people think. And I'm like, it's not that I just want an overly peaceful discourse, because I do like the friction and the combativeness. But then I thought about why that it pissed me off and why I'm just jaded is because, like, you go to a boxing match and the other person's trying to wrestle you, take you down to the floor and like throw elbows. Like, dude, this is boxing.
Yeah.
They're kicking you. Like, you don't kick in boxing. Like, what are you doing here? You know? And then they call you a pussy, and then they'll fucking kick you in the ring, and they'll be like, "Oh, you don't want to debate? You don't want it? You can't handle it?" And using their fucking ankles on your throat and shit. I'm like, bro, like I wanted a box, not this. You know?
Not this mess. Well, it's when you have a demos who's in control, and when the demos is in the cratic position, you have people of average intelligence, and 50% of the average has to be below. So you have 50% of people below average intelligence. They loathe structure. They loathe rules. They loathe anything that makes them feel stupid, that reminds them that they're dumb naturally. And they can't stick to rules. They're too stupid to stick to rules. They have to remember them and adhere to them, which requires impulse control. It requires that you have some sort of a moral philosophy. It's very demanding for them.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, what the fuck? I signed up for boxing classes, not goddamn wrestling. Like, so I just like leave the ring. Fuck this. This is not worth it anymore.
Yeah, you can't. You just can't. I have wondered, and I would be interested in doing it, is actually having live debates and moderating them, and actually just like you get like 60 seconds to speak, and then your mic is cut, and you both get an equal amount of time to talk. You can't interrupt the other person because your mic is off. And follow some of the Socratic rules of debate, and then just have a list of logical fallacies, and then I'd be there going, oh, we need to stop there because actually if you look at number 17, that's a logical fallacy you just used. And just you sort of like train as you go, learn as you go how to do it. We probably get somewhere. You probably actually have a winner and a loser. You'd actually have somebody whose points had more merit than the other points, which is the other element of boxing. Is you want to finalize something. You want a conclusion. Otherwise, you get blue balled. You're just being edged with this pseudo argument.
But let's talk about the demos and how they might be retarded. And the thing with this situation is like, so say if you were hypothetically King Granin the 69th, right?
Oh, I love this story.
Yes.
Oh, did you see me perk up?
I saw your past life awaken starting from your crotch.
That's where I keep the flag.
Yes, exactly. And you were able to upload your consciousness to your upcoming son, so you would live through your son's flesh suit, and you would have your same Granin mind, right?
Amazing. My empire would last 5 million years. Yeah.
So instead of an authoritarian monarchy where you're the king of everything, you decide to make it. Everybody started pushing for democracy, right? And then you're like, okay, I guess the tides are changing, but how do I stay king? And how do I have my bloodline stay king? What if I educated the people to abide by my policies and how it's beneficial for them, and then have them think that they have a choice for voting for me? Therefore, it's still a democracy, but they're convinced that I'll save them.
You would maintain control as a tyrant and a dictator whilst having a semblance of democracy that placated the demos.
Right. Not saying that could happen now. I don't know. That's just a hypothetical situation I brought out. I don't know, man.
Are you suggesting there's like a secret cabal in the background of old bloodlines from ancient Babylon to today that are in control of everything.
It doesn't have to do with bloodletting and all that. But I'm just saying, if someone's in power, it's going to be real hard to just let that go. You know what I mean? Shit.
Yeah, I would. If it was me, I would just say to them, like, you don't want to be in charge. Look into your hearts. You don't want to be in charge. It's so much responsibility. Let me think for you, brothers and sisters. Go back to sleep. You're safe. You're safe. And then if they keep rising up, you just round up the dissidents and gulag them.
Right.
And
So
you call the camps tennis coaching camps. They've gone to tennis coaching camp.
fucking hell.
Nobody's a revolutionary if they're good at tennis. Seriously, I'm totally convinced. Put them in nature. It's beautiful. You learn to play tennis. And you bring them back. You go, your game is amazing. Your fucking serve is fire. Do you still want to do a revolution, or would you like to play tennis competitively? I know which way they'll go. I understand my people.
Yeah, and then you can give them all little like black mirrors to absorb their souls in, and then they'll feel a little tingle in their pits. You know,
be like,
give them
you
a little
can
income.
wank as much as you want over any degraded, sexually depraved nonsense you like.
Okay, so let's go back to that first point from the beginning of the podcast. So imagine you have everybody have that UBI and they can just wank as much as they fucking can. How long will it take, and how will the collapse happen from there?
I don't know. I don't know whether you would have a collapse from there, because
Right.
I was trying to understand thermodynamics today because I'm weird. I had 5 minutes and I just was like, show me the laws of thermodynamics again. And I was like, oh, okay. And one of them, it might be the third one or the fourth one. It was kind of like, if you put a system to sleep, it can sleep perpetually. Or maybe that's how I interpreted it, because I'm not a physicist and I don't really know what I was reading. So I was just interpreting it like poetically or through my own filters. I was like, oh, if it goes to sleep, if it's in an infinitely cold temperature and goes to sleep, then there's no change, because it's kind of dead and alive at the same time. So with the UBI and that future, there might not be a collapse. There might not be
Right.
a revolution. It's always the question. It's that black swan scenario. Like, what's the thing that you don't see? The thing that the think tanks didn't predict. That's what'll fuck it up.
I'm trying to figure out what that thing is. The thing that we just will completely blindside us.
Okay, I've got it. I know what it is. Fucking human incompetence.
Yeah.
Do you know what just happened with our health secretary, Matt Hancock, in the UK?
Mm-hmm.
He was the guy who's been giving like good government contracts to his friends to make glass vials for laboratories who've never been in the medical supplies business before in their lives, and multi-million-dollar contracts handed out to ex-girlfriends, mothers, and God knows what else. Really corrupt dude. And he was with this thing of saying, like, you can't visit girlfriends and boyfriends who are not from your household during the lockdown. Meanwhile, at that time, he was cheating on his wife. He was shagging his assistant, and it's come out. So he's been fired. Him, and the people around, Matt Hancock, before the pandemic, was obsessed with the track and trace system, an app that tracked and traced people for the National Health Service. You can look at his Twitter feed back in 2018 for that. He developed a track and trace system that cost the United Kingdom taxpayer £30 billion, and it went nowhere. It totally failed. Now, just so everybody's on the same page, the UK uses the same means of tracking a billion as America now. So a billion is 1,000 million. So you take £1 million, you stack it 1,000 times, 1,000 million pounds is it, and then you times that by, actually at the final count in the end, it costs 37. Then you times that, multiply by 37 towers of cash. He blew it all. He blew it all of it. It's all gone. Total fucking incompetence. Just a knob who doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Total incompetence. That's what will fuck the system. We're just not that smart. We're just not that bright. And we'll shag somebody or do something stupid or rob something, or, you know, people are people.
got caught flipping his assistant and blew trillions of dollars. That's amazing.
The allegation has been made by some that he specifically hired her so that he could have something on the side away from his wife, following in the footsteps of our Prime Minister Boris, who did the same thing.
Good Lord, isn't there an easier way around this? Oh, what a great idea. Bring them into the political space. That'll play out well.
These are not geniuses. These are not supermen. These are not ubermensch. These are Matt Hancock is a fairly ridiculous nerd of a human being. He's 2 years younger than me. He's from the town down from me. He's from Chester. He's from a town down the road from me, and he's had the UK in a death grip since the beginning of this fucking thing.
Right. Just get a fleshlight. It'll do you fine.
That's all he deserves now. I mean, I'm sure his wife will buy him one.
So my hypothesis about this whole situation is, first of all, we're already seeing the trickles of this, which is people just don't want to work, which means there's no incentive to do jobs that still need to be done, but no one wants to do it, therefore slowing down the overall mechanism of society in a lot of ways, because most of the jobs are not the most fun thing, but people are required to do them in order for us to have things, to have services.
Just to put a note in there, which has been my criticism of communism from day one. Nobody wants to dig the fucking latrines, but good, go on.
Exactly. Right. So that's going to be a problem unless there is what Grimes says, like an AI or just complete robotics to take over the jobs that humans don't need to do anymore, whether it's truck driving, whether it's the cashiers, the waitresses, even, cooks, like all these things. And then what happens from there? That at that point, it's primarily a spiritual issue, because most people, I think, would actually be okay with just having a tube like jammed through their cheek and have like some fleshlight device just constantly suck them off all day, every day. And they have projections. Like they imagine like you have those concrete walls and they're all projections of like mansions all around. It might be through VR or hologram.
Or they just put it in your eye.
Yeah.
They just insert it into your frontal lobe. Fuck your eye.
Yeah, that'll be around what, like the 70th vaccine shot for that mutation. That'll eventually come with the contact.
Yeah.
So then at that point, I feel like a lot of people would be fine with like chilling in a concrete box like that and just, whether it would be consuming or doing whatever.
Right. Yeah. I see, in that system, as we sort of move towards that system, one of the things you said just made me think there might be a slightly darker thing with the UBI and the allocation of labor, where you wear a tracker. The software for this, the technology for this exists. We discussed it on here before. There was a patent for it brought out, I think, 2 years ago, and it tracks your body movements and then assigns value to your body movements. That would be like a social credit system. So if they said to you, dig the latrines because there's not enough robots for it today, and you said, no, I don't want to dig the latrines, you sit scrolling Instagram, they'll be like, well, there's no credits for you today.
Yeah. Yes. And that's obviously a big problem, but I'm thinking, imagine, because if there was less crime and they had the robots to do everything, people would probably voluntarily go into these pods. And would there be any incentive to escape that? Like a reasonable incentive to not live that life at that stage of things?
It's going to become like an ideological split. There are people who would just hate the idea. And there will be people who'd be like, well, everybody's doing it. And if it would need to be, if they're smart, much like a new iPhone, it would be placed as a luxury item that only a very few people can have. Only celebrities will be seen with it, and it's the best thing ever, but you can't have it. You can't have it. You can't have it. And you tease them, you edge the nation for a little while, and then you just make it a little bit more affordable and a little bit more affordable. And these fucking slaves pay for it themselves. And then there's going to be a process for introduction of the pod into the house, but you want your slave nation to beg for it. Beg
Okay.
for your torture, slave.
I mean, like from what you've already seen, and me too, it's like small world syndrome is becoming more of a thing. People have social anxiety already, which makes them even dive deeper into digital communication primarily. So, I mean, this is going to be a future that's we're going to see really soon, especially with we already have this. This is the experiment with UBI right now. Like this is the first trial to see if it works, and it is working in a sense where it's happening. But in terms of people showing up to jobs and stuff, I mean, I don't. That's not working. But they're going to figure out a way around that. Maybe this is how they introduce the new Bezos flying monkey. You know what I mean? That does fucking everything around the house at that stage. And then Elon Musk brings out his thing. And I feel like this is going to be way more soon than we expect, man.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think it's reasonable to say it's going to be way sooner than we expect, because we're living in a time where things are changing so rapidly, and it feels like there's, a real acceleration of change at the moment. So yeah, no, I can see that being inside of a few years for sure.
Was there ever a time in human history, contemporary human history too, where 16-year-old, not a celebrity, can make six figures?
No.
Right?
Make from scratch, not
Yeah.
inherit. No. There's got to be someone who's a computer whiz or came up with an invention or wrote a book, but they will be very much outliers. It's more truthful to simply say no and be wrong about a few people who did than it would be to say anything else. So just no. No other time in human history like this. No.
What is here? There's really something to be noted here. I don't know what it is exactly, but if this is the first time underage people can just make six figures symbolically doing something, it's not even an actual service. It's like a gesture of something where money just manifests.
Well, there's many things here, but one thing that's here that's very important is there's a total mockery of the system, the pre-existing system. Why
Yeah.
get an education? Why work your way up through a fucking bank or study for 7 or 8 years to be a fucking doctor or 9 years to be a brain surgeon? Fuck that. I can do a funny dance with my eyebrows, literally with my fucking eyebrows on TikTok, and make whatever they make.
Right.
I'm talking about that Bella, is it Bella Porch?
Yeah.
And she does like dances with her face, and it gets 16 million views. I'm like, what is this?
She turned that into now, I think, a pretty thriving musical career, which, that's how it goes.
Yeah, good. We're not in a meritocracy at that point. That's meritocracy is smashed at that point. And why? Not only is meritocracy, it just dissolves the boundaries of everything. It's so boundary dissolving, not in a positive way.
That's what it is. It's boundary dissolving. It takes the meaning and value of something like money away, but also not just financially, but value exchange and service in general. That has no more fucking meaning in this postmodern world.
Yeah, no, it's there's still shreds of meaning, but it's been really damaged. Like if this was a war and the meaning was inside of a fortress, you would consider that a pretty good sapping job on the outer wall of a fortress. That's a big hole that's just been blown in the wall there. And anybody can look at it and go, well, look, like there it is. We all know these people who've done that. PewDiePie made his first million by being watched playing video games and screaming and swearing. He's funny. He is funny. He's genuinely funny, but that's how he made his the first time he hit £1 million or dollars. That's what it was for.
Do you see my mind working?
Yeah, no, you're right that there is more here. There's more. There's more to this.
I don't know what it is, but there's something to be dug out here, because if this is the first time where supposedly a lot of underage people can make more than doctors and people that make actual services and give actual things, and the actual process of how this underage person makes money is symbolic, and then they're symbolically given money, a lot of it too, through the symbolic gestures.
I think one of the other things it generates is a tremendous amount of like a sense of despair in the people who are not doing that, and a sense of fuck it. I think there's an awful lot of fuck it in the air. Fuck it. Fuck it all. Just fuck it. And that's why people are not being respectful towards each other. That's why people are fighting, fist fighting over car parking spaces in Ibiza. It blows my fucking mind, but that's happening right now. Because fuck it. Nothing is fair. Nothing is meaningful. God really is dead now. And finally we're realizing that God as morality, God as social structure, God as meaning, God as spirituality. Yeah, he dare you.
Yeah, that's so I guess that is like just the small branch of the tree of fuck it. Because you see, yeah, it's just another giant fuck you, a shove a pie in the face of all the masses in general. When that
what are you
happens.
What are you trying? Are you trying?
Yeah.
Are you going to work, you fucking moron? You're trying. My dog makes more than you. Look at my dog's Instagram, and you're trying. Oh, you fucking idiot! And even if nobody says that to you, you'll just say it inside of your own head.
Yes, and then the people that aren't that 15-year-old moving eyebrows making six figures, you have two choices. You try, and you get laughed at for trying, and it fails, which makes it even fucking worse. Or the other route, you just don't even do it, but you just know that exists while you're fucking shoveling leaves off the yard, you know?
Yeah, that's pretty dispiriting. I think like in the last iteration of feudalism, not neo-feudalism, our parochialism and our ignorance was our strength. It really was, because you didn't know. You knew about as much about what was going on in the palace as they wanted you to know. Nobody had fucking mobile phones. There wasn't paparazzi. What could you know? There's your king. Are we at war with France? Yes, we're at war with France. What's on the agenda today? You're going to dig some fucking holes, you stupid English peasant. Okay, master. And that'll be it.
Right. Yeah. And, okay. So I think there's a difference between maybe if you like the...
I think I just Monty Python that a little bit. Sorry.
No, it's fine. So I'm thinking, okay, so it's one thing if you see someone that you like and you want to support them by buying their merch or whatever, right? And there's a direct support there somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And so this is, I think, where I'm trying to point at is like, you have 15-year-old TikToker does this fucking thing, 6 figures, 10 sponsorships, and one of them is a fucking skincare lotion or some skinny tea. That product itself, what value does that actually bring to someone as well? Like, is there a service there? Like, obviously, it's good to have clear skin and to be skinny, I guess, sure. But it's like that whole exchange is symbolic just for the sake of having it done. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
It's like this gesture that isn't even providing a service necessary. 10 seconds of entertainment. Okay, sure. This thing, so the money, the fiat money comes in and it's like there. And then you advertise this product that gives you like this thing, like, and then what happens from there is just a thing. And then the cycle repeats. Like what is, like, that's like, what is that? That whole gesture could just not exist, and then like it'd be the same result. You know what I mean?
It's empty, performative, symbolic narcissism generating more empty, performative, symbolic narcissism, engendering more empty, symbolic, performative narcissism. It's a circle jerk of circle jerkers doing nothing. But meanwhile, you're trying. You're trying to feed your kids. You're trying to hold down a job. You're trying to use your degree. You're making your car payments. You're trying to... That's like walking over to the peasants in their field in the Monty Python sketch and be like, fuck you. Every day, all day, that they're awake because they won't resist to look, because they can see it in John Dee's magic mirror that we've just given them, which is like a mobile phone. And they'll be like, what are you doing over there, John? I'm looking in my magic mirror to see what the rich people, and these rich people are just gorging themselves on duck fat and grapes and engaging in orgies whilst bedecked in jewelry, and you're freezing your ass off digging a shit pit in a field.
Right.
What is the end result of that going to be for you emotionally? Times that by 100,000 people, you're going to have a soupçon of resentment. A soupçon. Juste un peu resentment. We hate it. We all hate it. It's hateable. It's horrible. It's loathsome. It's hellish.
It's just so strange. Like, try to explain this concept to somebody who grew up 100 years ago. Like, what do you mean? If I am a tailor, I make you a great suit, and then you pay me for my services to measure you and give you a blazer, and that's the service. You know, it's like, what is this economy, right? Like, what is this system? What is this structure?
Which is actually one of Marx's valid points that I agree with. We are more and more alienated from our labor now, and that is a problem. That's not good. That's not good. I'm very lucky in that at least I have some contact with some people who are real people who can be like, dude, I was suicidal. I did the thing with the thing and the thing, and I took your advice, and now I'm not. And whenever I hear that, I'm no longer, I don't know what the opposite of alienation is, but you're reunified with your efforts. And it's not financial, because we need more than money. Fiat currency can only buy me things, but I'm a human. I'm not a thing consumer totally. I am a thing consumer, but I'm more than that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but your scenario is complete alienation. It's total. There's no humans there. That could all be done by robots. That's how you could explain it to somebody from 100 years ago. You don't need humans to do this.
Labor is synonymous with the reward. It's supposed to be, because like, what is labor without an outcome?
Slavery.
It's slavery.
It's slavery,
right?
It's indentured slavery. It's indentured because one day we'll free you. One day you'll be given a big flagon of mead. One day you'll be allowed to return to Ireland, but it's essentially slavery.
And, you know, I don't know where I saw this, but it was people talking about why mail rooms drive people fucking crazy. And you have the saying going postal.
Yeah.
And it was like basically summarized like, because it never ends.
Post Joe Rogan.
That was Joe Rogan? Okay,
I'm pretty sure that's Joe Rogan. And in his, stoner, he was like, as though he'd come up with the biggest revelation of all time. He's like, because it never ends, man. I was like, oh, yeah, shit.
The thing is, I think it actually is quite profound. Because
no, it is. It really is. It's just his delivery sometimes.
Yeah. It's just because it never ends. It's like, it's almost as if he was in the mailroom.
Right.
But like there's a truth to that, because the mail just keeps going and you're constantly sorting. You have no labor to reward ratio. It just goes and goes, and you're in this you're underground putting it in a fucking box.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to work on social media sometimes. Messages after messages. The next video has to encourage a response for a ratio. The engagement just keeps it, and it's like, oh, it's never, it just keeps going, and you just never, and then you don't have the tangibility. You don't even you don't own anything from it. It just goes and it goes. It drives you fucking insane.
I'm in a very sort of German mood today. I want to compare it to orgasms again. When the tailor finishes the job, and he puts the man or the woman in the thing that he made or that she made, they probably have, like, as a human being, when you've done a job and then they're wearing it and you thought about it and it's on them, and you just, the tailor probably makes like a noise, like he goes, or
marvelous.
Some special.
Yes.
And then his body will flood with hormones, and his brain will go, you did the thing. You good.
Yeah, right.
Look,
right.
I make his suit nice. And then there's a moment of satisfaction and finalization. And it's there's a Wilhelm Reich cycle, and it's something like arousal, agitation, lust, sex, orgasm. And in the mailroom, you never exit the cycle.
Right.
You're just being bukakied by mail.
Yeah, you're just getting jizzed on all fucking day, dude. That might be fun the first time, but like,
we all know it is, Pierre. Come on, we're not fooling anybody at this point.
yeah, and right. So, and that's the thing. Like, I would even say, as far as maybe even when I sold clothing, it was a similar situation. I didn't tailor the jeans, but I would offer what would look good on them, and they wear it. They feel good about themselves. I'm like, dude, that looks great. Try this, man. This is awesome. And then you have the routine of like, you open up with a certain ritual, you close down the store with a certain ritual. The day's over. You know, you have set key points and landmarks throughout the day to determine that. And the mailroom doesn't have that, and neither does social media. It's not the even if you finish a video and you put it out there, it's as much, it feels like you're sending mail. And then you receive comments, and you receive mail from, but then it's to the next one. You have to deliver the next house, to the next thing, the next message.
I had this terrible thought the other day. You know, I've been talking about despair and the value of despair since I saw that Academy of Ideas video. So I let myself despair about, like you just said, about social media. I was like, God, it's just hell. It's just, God, this is just hell, because it never sleeps. Something about the fact that my face is always talking 24/7 somewhere in the world. I'm like, there's got to be something spiritually fucked up about that. Somebody must have something to say about that. Like, your soul is being consumed over time. You know, like, it can't be fucking right. And then I thought, okay, so despair then. What do you do? I shut it all down. What do you do instead? And I was like, I knew within 6 seconds. I stared at the wall, despaired, and I had 6 seconds of blank, and I just went, I'd be an author. I'd write books. Can you imagine crafting a book?
Yeah.
And then you just put it out there. People piss on it. You know, you get terrible criticisms and all the rest of it. But you said everything in one place that you fucking had to say, and it's out there. And anybody asks you, you go, read the fucking book.
Yeah.
Don't scout through my videos that say this thing, that thing, the other thing. Read the fucking book. That's a bit more like being a tailor. That's a bit more like being the Amish family that builds a barn for the cousin, and then they finish the barn and they go, there's a fucking barn that we built, now go and use it. That's like, on a soul level, at a body level, you're just like, that definitely seems more wholesome than the shit that we do.
Sure. You know, it's so crazy you bring that up. I literally had the same conclusion the other day in my therapy session.
Oh, wow.
Really, dude, it's totally similar, because I take him to the conclusion, I really like connecting with people in general, but also in person, meeting people and having this exchange. And I was trying to think, like, what real life format could I, you know, somehow have that happen? Playing a concert's okay, but there's not much back and forth there. I don't want to teach English. And I was like, what? If I wrote a book, not only do I have the book, but I can tour with the book, have something to say there through it. People show up and you have that exchange there. And I was like, looks like we're both going to be authors, man.
Well, if you think, and I think this applies to everybody. There's a universality to this. Like, if you have a message on YouTube, your message is displaced. Yes, you have thousands of eyeballs on you. Like, I looked at my statistics of the day and I was like, fucking hell, 35 million views. What is that like the Jordan Peterson moment? Well, I don't know what it means. Like, what does that mean? 35 million, it means something. And I'm like, but it's a crazy funhouse mirrors, distorted lens that you write it in a book. It is written. There it is. Even if you come out with like a book every 18 months or a book a year, it's still healthier. There's something, this economy, you pointed to, I can't verbalize it because I haven't thought it through, but you've just pointed to a way of being and an economy that's new. And I don't just mean the money in the economy, I mean the human behavior in the economy. Totally empty performative narcissistic gesture leading to totally empty performative narcissistic gesture, and on in this cycle. There's no future. Well, there is a future in that, but there's no happiness in that. There's no fulfillment there. There's never a moment. There's never the tailor's moment of.
Right. that moment right there, I think with most services before the digital age, it's there somewhere. even with street sweeping. You know, like if you're a street sweeper and you have to clean up the streets, you see the clean street afterwards the next morning, and you're like, "That's I did that." Maybe it not, does everyone's not happy with that, but there's still a tangible result.
You sounded like Louis C.K. Hey, I did that, and now I want to go home and take my own life.
Yeah, sure. That definitely exists too.
I used to work in labs, newly built labs, and when they were put in, there's a lot of shit that it leaves behind. And I used to clean newly built labs. The cleaning process is fucking horrendous because dust just goes everywhere. You got a mask on and everything, but when it's clean, it feels good. You do 4 hours and it's done. Yeah. Or if you've ever worked bar, at the end of the night, you break down the bar, you clean everything, and you go, "It's fucking done. All right, let's go."
Yes.
That's how it sleeps. The beast sleeps,
and it has the same sensation as maybe somebody who even writes graffiti. You see a tangible thing there, and people on trains see your thing, and then you see this thing. In the same way that, I don't know, some other situation, like maybe street sweeping or whatever. And like recently, especially after that fucking Czech reality show thing that I was on, like the amount of people that recognize me now is skyrocketed, which is fucking crazy. Like it happened today. Anytime I go out and teenagers outside of the bar waving and shit, crazy. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, okay, a part of me obviously likes the attention from the ego fulfillment there. But a part of it, I was just more happy to see their happiness. You know, the tailor that goes, you know, like there's that confirmation to the service, whatever that fucking might be. And I think for a while, especially being locked down for so long, dealing with a digital space, it's all intangible. You don't see the fucking reward or results of anything. You just see a bunch of mail coming through, and that's it.
I think the world that we live in now was crafted by narcissistic psychopaths, and they put their prejudices into this world, this financial system, this way of doing business. And I don't think that people don't care, even if they think that they don't care. I think people care. I think they intrinsically care, and we want to see each other. We want to be recognized by each other, and we are happy when other people are happy. It feels good.
Right. Yeah.
You know, you're in a room full of people. Like I do seminars sometimes, and like people come in and they're nervous and they're sad and they're down, and then I make them laugh a few times, and their cheeks flush and their posture straightens up, and they relax and they breathe, and they feel like camaraderie, the brotherhood of that, and you just go, that's worth something. That's really worth something, and I think that's the natural human state. It's not the cold psychopathic mind is like, no, you just want what you want. You just want to do a seminar and take the money and then buy a Ferrari and then rub your balls on the bonnet.
Yeah. And I've tried to like download that simulation to operate on. I just can't do it. I can't do it. I that's not enough for me. And like there was a situation with the mailman thing that I would like imagine during Christmas time, as stressful as it is, you have a few kids waiting out front of their house. You bring in this big ass package, and you see the kids just fucking light up because you're their Santa Claus. You know, like that's amazing. That's that same dopamine hitting reward concrete thing. You know, it's like that's great.
Yeah, it's great, and maybe in my future dictatorship, I would factor that back in and just be like, you can't just work for money. You also need to see and know that your work made other human beings' lives better.
Right.
And we don't do jobs where that doesn't happen. Or if you have to do a job where that happens, we have special days where you have contact with the people you've affected regularly. It can't just be a once a year thing. You need to know you're contributing. Anthony Robbins, the self-help guru, he defined like 8 human needs, and one of them was contribution, and it's the only one that I remember, because when I read that I was like, holy fuck, yes, we are tribal. We need to contribute, and if we're not contributing, we're fucking miserable. And you've got to have a tangible sense of improving other people's lives.
Right. So then when everyone has UBI and doesn't have an idea or the incentive to contribute naturally, that's going to be, I think, where one of the spiritual crises come from.
I think so. I mean, we're already kind of there anyway. We're prepped for that. UBI would just tip us over the edge.
I mean, if you think about it, just through human biology, the contribution is inherently for our survival. If you're part of a tribe and no one had the contribution gene, let alone one out of the tribe, the fucking thing would collapse pretty fucking soon.
100%.
You know,
100%. If you had a tribe of 50 people and it was a bad breeding year, or everybody ate some weird fruit that just took the gene out, that tribe's done. That tribe is fucking done. You don't have 50 narcissistic psychopaths in a tribe. Well, you might do, but you won't know their names because they're all gone. They're just gone forever.
This might be one of the few times in contemporary human history, or just maybe all of it, where we take out such a key element of our inherent programming, which is to contribute. So, I mean, to bring out the silliness of the situation, imagine an old tribe of 25 and around a campfire, but all of them were consuming only. Just fucking eating with no hunting. They just eat and jerk off, and like that's it. Like no one is fucking like sewing any loins. No one's making the arrows. No one's like just sitting there. Just like that would be impossible. We just happen to hack our way into a situation where we just have to take the ingredient of contribution out, which is going to be a big problem to deal with.
Yes. It would be a terrible shame if we as a species forgot contribution, but you can get us to go against our nature quite a lot for a while. But I think human nature just comes back in through the side door, through the back door. I think like that was the 1984 book by George Orwell. It was written over the top. It doesn't read over the top now, but for the time that he was writing, it was cartoonish. It was a caricature of totalitarianism. And that's what made it optimistic, because he was like, this is so fucking silly. Like O'Brien's speeches about a boot stamping on a human face forever. The people reading it at that time were like, well, that's not going to work. I mean, they just seen the Nazis fall apart 5 years before the book's release. We've forgotten all that. And we read it as like, ooh, shit, this is the world we live in. But I would agree with him. I don't think totalitarianism is our natural state. I really don't. I really don't think you have to do a very soft version of it, which we have had for a couple of centuries. But if it gets harder than it is now, I think you just wake people up. You just wake people up to the game.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic, Tavarish.
Yeah. Dude, like I look back to the days of like being at a clothing store, and there's actually a lot more that I'd like to admit that I miss about it.
Dude, I'm ready to go back to door work. I'm ready to go back and stand on a fucking door right now, because I miss dumb conversations about fucking nothing because you're bored.
Me too. Just for the like socializing, being in a social setting for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Just that. And then having a service and the contribution be primary and secondary to being in that situation.
Yep. You need that, but that's what we are as creatures, though. We've evolved that way. Like, you need, if you just sit people in a room and say talk, that's weird.
Yes.
But if you're forced to do something like put down railroad tracks or work bar,
that's right.
You just develop.
It's funny.
You develop camaraderie, and you kind of need a shitty boss, because that helps, because then you all hate the same person, which unifies you, and so on. Or you hate the customers, or you have your stories, you're recognized as an incident occurs, you have a nickname now because you're the guy of that whatever incident. There's recognition, there's contribution, there's contact. We need contact, man. We fucking desperately need contact. We need silly contact. We need meaningless contact.
Right. Yeah, man. Like there's something about doing mundane tasks like folding clothes while roasting your coworkers for no reason.
Yeah, because fuck you is the reason.
No, I mean, have you really been considering going back to door work? Because I've been considering getting a fucking job or taking yoga classes, which I do need to do because my back fucking hurts. But like something, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I have contacts for door work here, and I met a couple of security. They're actually bodyguards in the gym, and they only speak French, and my French is shit. But we ended up having like this really long conversation with hand gestures and their shit English and my shit French. And I was like, I get the why can we talk? Because I get what they do, and I get these people. I get that. I get the boredom. I get the fear. I get the machismo that covers the fear and the boredom. I just get those. I get what they do.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, damn, I think I would really get something from that. I would actually, I don't need the money. I mean, it's a dangerous job, especially this season in Ibiza. It's going to be dangerous. But yeah, I miss it. I do. I really miss it. I deeply miss it.
So this is how it ties in everything. As of the last few lockdowns and shit, we both saw obviously the terrible consequences of our mental health deteriorating. You know, like motherfucker. And it's like fucking hilarious how shitty that fucking time period was.
That was bad. That was a bad one.
Really fucking terrible. And like I live streamed all of it. A through Z, have the whole fucking PRXO Meltdown trilogies online for everyone to watch. So, and then the sun comes out. Springtime was a little rough. So when things are in its rhythm, the strides is happening, the sun's there. People feel more comfortable saying hello to waiters and waitresses. I'm feeling better saying hello to friends I haven't seen and meeting random people on the street, live streaming again. I'm like back in my body, you know, the hormones are back. And I'm like, it really makes you think, man, how important is human contact and how much does it really determine your overall state and mood?
Yeah.
It's one of the most important things. Like, no matter how philosophical anybody is and how woke they are in whatever route, man, you can't do without it.
No, I think that there. That's why I like the Anthony Robbins model of it's the 8 human needs. If anybody could remind me in the comments what they are, but I really like that model because he basically said, well, look, if you're missing any one of these things, you're going to run into trouble, and he's right. He's 100% right. Like we better know that. If that's the case, we better know that, because if you don't know that and you're not in contact with people and then you have big sad, you'll be like, oh, I must have a chemical imbalance in my brain that generates depression. My grandmother had depression. It's genetic. No. You just haven't sat and talked shit with people who know you for months or even years. And you need to do that. You need to just sit there and look at each other's faces and just talk about nothing. Just pass the time. Just pass the time with each other.
And I don't know why this is like revelatory for me, but I think from seeing the contrast being so obvious at this point, you know, it makes me think, what if those fucking thoughts during wintertime were just delusions? Was that my real self? Is that a real depressive, melancholic self? Or was that a half delusion? Because the moment I get vitamin D in my fucking skin, while I say hello to just even 2 or 3 random nice encounters with strangers is enough to keep my mental state going. You know,
if it's context specific, then it would be classed as possibly delusional, even somewhere on the scale for psychosis. Like if we put you in a situation that makes you feel the big sad or the big rage, well, there's not a chemical imbalance in you. You're in a shitty, fucked up situation.
Well, let's be honest here. How close was that lockdown to both of us going through a mini psychosis or some sort of derealization, some sort of disassociation, something?
When I took that lorazepam, the one that fucked Jordan Peterson up, and I took a
half. Yeah.
And I saw you the next day, and I fucking lost my mobile phone. I lost my fucking keys. That week was a bad week for me. That was the 5 days following that was really, really not good. It was the most intense depression I've ever felt in my life. And depression's not I would get angry before I'd get depressed 9 times out of 10, but I was big sad, big sad.
Is that close to a psychosis, a dissociative episode? Because
if it had gone on and the suffering goes on, we know the research is in. Like, if you stick people in isolation, that's why isolation is the worst punishment for prisoners, because they want to be in the room, the rec room, or in the gym, and they talk shit to each other, and they create gangs, and they have vendettas. That's all to occupy the mind and play the dominance hierarchy game. You stick them on their own, they go fucking crazy.
Right.
You're not, and it's different state by state, but it is effectively torture. Had it gone on, I would have had a psychotic break. Everybody would have had a psychotic break.
Yeah, I think I actually had one, man.
Not the worst thing in the world to have.
Yeah, and seeing the remedy for a situation like that to be so simple kind of throws me off a bit, because I mean, that whole thing felt like all I fucking needed was to go out for a bit and say hello to a few strangers, and that was it. Like,
yes, that's a frame that you've put around it. So yes, the solution was just go outside, get some sun, and speak to people, but that doesn't look at what you endured up until that point. I was in the house in Prague for around 23 hours a day because we fucking go anywhere, and then it was curfew and there was police sending you back if you tried to go out. It was freezing fucking cold, and it wasn't a fun fucking experience. That's called prison. That's why it's called lockdown, because it's for prisoners. When prisoners are naughty and they riot in a prison, they put them in lockdown.
yeah, man. And I mean, I'm completely against lockdown from now on. Like, that solved it for me.
It's really, really, really deleterious to people's mental health to isolate them and put them in those circumstances. But look, we're both you've got your youth, you've got health, you've got independence. Could you imagine doing that on a tight budget with 2 kids?
Yeah.
And a wife who hates you.
Yeah. Ooh, boy.
I can run that simulation. I'd rather not. I don't want to be traumatized. But for some people it was brutal. We just don't know yet, because nobody's listening to their stories. Nobody's hearing their stories yet. It reminds me of Slavoj Žižek said this about people who survived in Bosnia, and they survived the siege of Sarajevo, and they survived the various things that I won't go into in Bosnia. They were like, I must get through this so I can tell my story afterwards. And then to their horror, they found that nobody came to hear their story. Nobody showed up and was like, oh my God, how did you survive? We're from CNN. Tell us how you survived being kidnapped and put in a rape house. Nobody came. And we need to remember that. Like, we still don't know how people have suffered, because the people who suffered the most are poor. And nobody gives a fuck when you're poor. Nobody gives a fuck if you haven't got that much going for you, and you're just broke and you're just average and a bit dull. Nobody gives a fuck. Nobody fucking cares. That's the world we live in. And the people with the least options and the lowest economy, they suffered the most. So the politicians and the pundits and the media people, and to a degree people like me, it's fine. It's middle class, bougie ass life. You're in a big fucking nice apartment on your own with free flowing Wi-Fi. You're not worried about money and education and all that shit. It just wasn't that bad. But for other people, it was a fucking living nightmare.
Meanwhile,
is making a fucking milli, popping a milli. My TikTok video is going to pop a milli this weekend. We're right on the edge.
You didn't even fucking try. You just put some shit up, and now it's has a million.
And then I stopped posting.
I know. And then you
I
just
tried
quit.
like 10 videos. I learned the format. I went, oh yeah, this is how you get. I guess this is how you do it. Fuck it.
I bounced this idea off my therapist because I was trying to like figure out. The topic was basically, does something have to be hard for you to enjoy it?
For me, the harder the better.
That was legitimately the thing I wanted to ask, but that's kind of what it is, though. There's that in that context, which of course it has to be hard, and then the other activities that you want to do, like, or let's say goals, or fucking crafts, or fucking whatever the fuck it is, man.
Hobbies.
Hobbies. Does it have to be hard, Richie?
I think like way back, maybe an hour and a half ago, I think I said something about the Protestant work ethic being baked into the cake, and it's always worth remembering that we all fall prey to that. Like the idea, it's got to be a sacrifice, it's got to hurt, it's got to be hard. Yeah. And the things that come most naturally to you and that will make you the most successful are probably easy as fuck for you. Like generally speaking, I got good advice from a complete psychopathic criminal on this one. And he taught me that. He was like, stop trying to do what's hard for you. You're never going to be an accountant. You're never going to be this. You're never going to be that. You're good at talking to people. So just fucking monetize that. I'm like, but that's stupid. It's easy. He was like, it's easy for you, you dumb fuck.
Right.
For everybody else, it's really hard. I was like, oh, okay. So you should use your natural gifts. Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't, maybe I talked to the same person. Who knows? But it was kind of the same thing with different delivery.
I'd be shocked if you fucking did, mate.
It would be maybe it was in a different delivery, but it was basically the same. Like I sometimes feel like I'm putting no effort or labor, therefore the result means nothing because it was too fucking easy and I didn't strain myself to do it. So fuck this activity, whatever it might be. You know, the TikTok was for you the same way I look at TikTok now. I post it and then it's like working. I'm like, fuck this, I hate it, you know. And
sorry, just a quick note there. Have you seen the TikTok that got, I don't know how many million views it got? It's like got 6.2 million likes. It's a cat reacting to a cocktail glass. Have you seen this?
No.
If it comes up on my page again, I'll send it to you. The cat is just like this with its ears back, and it's only for 10 seconds, and he's just looking at a cocktail glass. He's like that. 6.2 million likes. The dumbest fucking shit flies, and you just like, there's something zen about that. That's
a symbol of the times. That we are that cat. That's why we are the cat. You know. Yeah, and you know, I basically was talking to him, and I was like, man, like some of the things that I do, whether it's TikTok or I'm streaming, it just feels like I'm going outside with a camera. And he's like, well, Pierre, you're on a unicycle, you're talking to a bunch of people, you're running around the city. I could never do that. I was like, okay, but maybe there's a point to be made here.
I come on your live streams and people have just launched $200 at you for nothing. Somebody just gives you a super sticker for $200. I'm like, how? I don't know. Good.
Because I'm talented, Richie.
That's what it is. It's a talent. It's a talent. Riding around and talking is a talent. And you like it. People like it. It's all good. Should I take some questions from these good people?
Yes.
Here's with some questions.
So tap into your natural gifts, whatever it might be, my friends. Don't strain yourself for no reason.
Don't strain yourself for no reason. Ain't no disrespect.
Ain't no disrespect. But like the part of my brain that was looking for challenge, I'm like, what if I just started boxing?
I saw the video with which you damaged your back. I gave Pierre some simple leg building exercises to do. And I wanted him to do jump squats. And in my head, he was going to warm up, do some normal squats. Oh, wow.
You like my G-string?
Lovely. That's yanked up real high.
I did a jump squat and I pulled the muscle so fucking hard, and it's on live stream, and I couldn't walk.
He didn't do a jump squat. He banged out 10 pull-ups, overhand pull-ups, pulled his back, and then started doing jump squats, but like this, like throwing his whole body around and giggling like a fucking jester. And going, haha, I'm doing a jump. And I'm like, that's actually quite a dangerous fucking move. And then he, at one point, he lands heavy, snaps his head forward, jerking it. It's like a puppy, doesn't know his own size, and then goes, oh, fuck my back. And I was like, wow, well, I wonder by what mysterious fucking process. Please, everybody go and look at Pierre doing jump squats, the jester jump squats of back death.
I wonder if I can quickly pull it up. It's 10 seconds of hell, man. It's oh, there it is.
The head flings forward. It's beautiful.
On my back.
So anticlimactic, dude. Oh my god.
I was like, what about warming up? What about all these things that you got to do? Yeah, because well, obviously, like we've trained a little bit on the bag, right, for the kickboxing, punching and kicking. Yeah. And I feel like I'm always saying to you, don't respect the length of your like the length of spine and the length of your arms. You're just flinging yourself around, and all the little levers and the fulcrums are going, fucking Christ, what's he doing now?
Hey, usually when I go hard with my length, they take it. So.
In nomine Patris et Filius et Spiritus Sancti. Normally when I go hard with my length, they take it. I might have set that one up there. I feel like I did. Pierre's going hard with his length.
Do that again. That was what it.
Nomine Patris et Filius et Spiritus Sancti. Te absolvo.
That's hilarious, man.
Okay, guys, hit us with a question. Make it one sentence long.
Bro, I feel so fucking fragile after that situation. I'm like scared to move now, dude.
This is my neck training. I've just gone back to, so I shrug quite a lot, which thickens your neck. And I do neck bridges, wrestlers' neck bridges. So you just balance on the top of your head and then just roll backwards and forwards. But you should have an instructor take you through that first. But yes, you should train your neck just for aesthetics.
Can you try this, Richie?
Is it the titties were moving? How are we doing?
Yeah. So when you're doing this, you like try to do the reverse where you keep your head in the same place.
Oh, no, it won't. No, it won't stay. Go this way. No, it won't. It won't do that. When my chest goes, my head follows. See, with my body, it likes to stay in alignment. But the jester's body is like head here, arm there, leg the fuck over there. Oh, I broke my back again. Oh, hell to breeze.
Dude, I think the drumming when I was younger does that because like you have to move each limb on its own.
Right. Oh, okay. Also, that style of dance that you do to make it look impressive. You do move bits.
You have to isolate everything.
Isolate. I never really. The only time we were taught isolation was in Systema, the Russian martial art. We would isolate to move, but I was never very good at that.
Well, I'm never jump squatting again. So,
can there be a Granin plushie, please? Do you have one of your plushies on hand, Pierre? He gonna get it. He get it. After the head wiggle, you're supposed to say what Osho says. I think his head wiggle was more that.
Here he is.
That's lovely.
Yes, it does. I think there's only like 3 or 2 more days to get one, and then they're going to be gone forever. So,
where do they go to get a plushie from?
Makeship.com. Type in PRXO.
Get yourself a plushie. He'll always have a Pierre on hand for those long, dark, lonely nights.
Yeah, he's lonely.
Well, do you think? I thought you were going to breastfeed him. Then I really thought you were going to whop a tit out.
That's off camera.
Okay, is that just for me when we're done?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, Richie, here's your reward.
This is how it happens.
It's my plushie fetish. Hey, what the fuck is a furry?
A furry is an individual who comes up with their own fursona. That's really what it's called. It's an animal avatar that they choose to embody. And you get these costumes made for your fursona, and you act out a cartoon animal where you go to conventions and you meet other fursonas.
Is it a sex thing or?
There's a common conception that it is, which I think it is, sure.
Okay.
But it's part of the overall subculture, you know.
Is this a sign that Western civilization is declining?
It's a sign that we have too much goddamn time on our hands.
This is the end of days, or at least I hope it is. Okie dokie. So here's with a question. Make it one sentence long and end in a question mark, and we will try. Golden Path says this is a dark path.
Well, I mean, dude, we're just gonna get so fucking bored with ourselves, man. Like, that's why I keep bringing up this UBI thing, and then people don't work. Hey, cool. Like, I don't want to work fucking 9-hour shifts to just pay for 2 dinners, right? I get that. But we just have so much fucking time with ourselves. We don't know what are we gonna do. Dress up as animals, dude. Fuck each other.
Dress up as animals and fuck each other as Rome burns. Has a Joker force taken over the controls of the simulation using absurdity and dick jokes to free us from the illusion?
It's quite possibly the only direction to take at this point.
Do you guys have pets?
No, a dog bit my leg, so I'll never get a pet again.
Dog bit my leg. Our club's open in Ibiza. I believe that they are. I've not been to see, but apparently they are. Bros and bros, can we agree that the stealth takeover Yuri Bezmenov described was completed long ago?
I think it's completely played out word for word as he predicted in the 80s, man.
Yep, really. Best books on nihilism.
50 Shades of Grey.
You will be a nihilist if you read that, for sure. Are we there yet, says Ellen. When eating the rich, should we use ketchup or barbecue sauce?
Just going raw. No seasoning, no condiments.
I thought he meant the rich as in me. And I thought it was like the Chris Rock thing. Should we use syrup or jello?
I stick with my word.
Personally, I prefer syrup. Can I
You
get an
raw.
interview? Absolutely. You just need to email Pierre at Pierre's email address. Do you have one?
Yeah. Pierre's email address at gmail.com.
You nasty. Are you aware of Paul Levi's work? Are you aware of Paul Levi's work? Pierre, I'm not.
No, but I know 50 Cent.
I told you, G, the other night that I did motion capture for 50 Cent for Blood in the Sand. Did I ever tell you that?
Yeah, you did. I was like, what? Tell everybody here. What the fuck?
Well, years ago when I was a martial arts instructor, I knew somebody who did motion capture work, and he wasn't the right size for 50 Cent. Neither was I. Like, he's taller than me. But anyway, it was a job based in Liverpool, and I said, "Oh, they asked, would you do it for free?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd do it for a laugh." And I did bits of the motion capture for the 50 Cent game Blood in the Sand. So when 50 Cent pistol whips somebody, and when he's standing still and not doing anything and scratching himself and looking around, that's me. Blood in the Sand.
The fuck? That's insane, man.
Yeah, I was a big 50 Cent fan as well. Huge 50, so I was really excited.
Does that shit pay well though? Like, it probably like. I'm assuming it's either nothing or a lot.
No, well, not for me. I did it as a freebie, as a friend, as a favor for a friend. But even my mate who did it professionally, and he'd done it for multiple games because he's got like a military background, special forces background. I don't think he was making more than like 500 or 600 quid a day, something like that. It's okay. And you're a motion capture artist, which is really cool. It looks good on the CV, and you can tell people I was in fucking Rainbow Six or whatever, but I don't think so.
That sounds fun. Maybe I should do that. Huh.
Yeah, let's all look up 50 Cent Blood in the Sand afterwards, and if he scratches his head, you'll be like, oh, I know how his...
So did you do every movement of his?
No, we did a day's shoot, and I don't think it was every movement. Because there was when I saw the advert for the game, there was kicks that they did, which was not me. It was definitely not me. The pistol whipping, I believe I've never seen the pistol whip, and they're standing still. So when he's just stood, well, if you put the controller down and 50's just looking around, that would be me. And so I think there was a disarm move that they wanted me to do, and they wanted me to walk as him, but they told me to walk with a limp. They were like, oh, 50 Cent has a limp. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that he doesn't have a limp. And that's a point of pride that he got shot in the leg and doesn't have it. So we had this fucking back and forth. I was like, I'll walk with a limp if you want me to. If you want me to pretend to be him and walk with a limp, I'll do as you tell me. But I think that's wrong.
Richie, you can legitimately say that you were 50 Cent.
Yes, for 6 hours, I controlled 50 Cent's body. Ooh.
Wow.
Wow. Okay, folks, I'm going to take one more questione, and then we will call it a night, as I'm effing starving. Final Fantasy Melon says, would you do it again? I would do it again for a laugh, yeah.
Dude, being a motion capture artist sounds kind of fun, though.
I think, like, what was the dude? Is it Andy Serkis who does Gollum? Like this, I think he sort of maxed out like the most amazing thing you can possibly do, because he did the voice and the character and everything. So yeah, I bet like if you're at a high level, it's probably exhausting because they'll do take after take after take after take. Like we did a shit ton of takes, and it was well, you know, from acting and from modeling. You know, when you're modeling, I've never modeled, but they must say to you like, do that face again, but like change it slightly.
Right. That's like an acting thing. Yeah, too.
And you're just going, well, what? Like, I don't know, look sad now, look happy, but smoldering, but sexy happy, or whatever direction they give you. They gave me directions that were a bit like that, like walk, but with this emotion. And I'm not a trained actor, so I was like, I don't. There was a lot. It was repetitive. You know what it's like. It's repetitious, it's tiring, and seems like a good idea. And when it's over, you're like, thank fuck it's over.
That's they're shooting a new movie around here.
Right?
They're shooting a few films right now, but one that I came across on a stream, a set on Vidkov Hill, and it's called The Gray Man, and I think it's like a spy movie with Ryan Gosling, and he's in it, and there's a bunch of extras, and they're like sitting around. I ended up talking to the producer because he was interested in my wheel, so we just had some small talk for a bit of time, and then afterwards I'm like leaving it, and I'm like looking at that, and I was like, fuck, this was my dream at one point.
Right.
But I would hate being on set there. Because you see all these fucking extras just sitting there. They've probably been there for 5-6 hours, and they probably haven't shot a scene yet. Like that whole process of being on set for whether it be a film, a photo shoot, a thing. This is stuff that's behind the scenes, but I'll tell you, it's real labor, and it's not fucking fun. It's infuriating, actually, man.
Yeah, it doesn't. They used, where I was living in Liverpool, they used that street that I lived on, Water Street, for Peaky Blinders a number of times.
Oh shit!
We could just lean out the window and watch them shoot Peaky Blinders, and the atmosphere was not a joyous.
Oh yeah,
it's real sober, and Well, it's expensive, right? Like every minute that you're there, because they had these fucking cranes and they had rain brought in and they had lights and it looked hard. I told you I was in a film, right? A martial arts movie as a bad guy.
Oh yeah.
And I'd only ever done theater acting, and I didn't understand that the camera picks up everything too. So I was like doing theater acting on camera, and they were like, "Just for the love of God, stop."
Relax. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, the thing is, like, you would have to get through the audition phase first, which is a bitch. Probably takes you like 2 years before your first real role, right? Then you finally get through, you memorize the fucking lines, and then if you get lucky enough to be on set, you got to get the hair and makeup, takes whole 4 fucking hours. Then you film for what? 2 minutes of you doing this. Oh, one more time. Oh, no. Like, oh, and you do that for like fucking 50 takes. And then they pack everything up and move to the next scene, which is like 2 steps away. They have to move all the fucking cameras like 5 steps away to do that next scene of you going like this.
That's just a recipe for me being very grumpy. I mean, just the 5 hours of people poking at my head and face would send me through the fucking roof, but doing the same shit over and over again would also just make me go crazy.
No wonder why actors go fucking insane. Because then they lose their identity in that whole process man.
There was that you remember he's not called Patrick Bateman, that's a character he played. Christian Bale having a meltdown on set.
Yeah.
And he got a lot of shit for it. And he was obviously being a knob. But a little part of me, because he was screaming at somebody for standing in his light on Terminator, but a little part of me was going, how the fuck did you stand in his light? Like, how did you end up standing in front of the fucking spotlight?
Bruh, I mean,
how did you get there? Like, who let you standing in front of
how are you not screaming at everybody every 30 seconds? Dude, that was probably what, day 50 of shooting. And he's playing a fucking Terminator, fucking whoever the hell, aggressive,
super aggressive.
He's probably starving, like he's like malnourished for the role. Like, dude, of course you're gonna want to punch people, dude.
Yeah, starving and juiced up to the tits, no doubt. But I was like, he's being a knob, and this is prima donna behavior. But also, when the cameras are rolling, don't stand in people's light. It's not that fucking hard. Like, how you just wander in with a sandwich in your mouth and just stand in front of one of the fucking lights. It was a little sympathy.
I mean, like, when you start taking when you are in these types of situations, you empathize with these people that are so-called like privileged with their situation or whatever, man.
Dude, I was going to release a video about this years ago, like 4 years ago, about Tom Hardy was getting a lot of flack for being a knob in interviews. And I was like, yeah, obviously from an outsider, you just see somebody who's from like a working class background, and then they get some money and they rise up, and then they're just abusive. And I'm like, there might be extra layers to this that you're not seeing. Like you said, there's the stress of the job itself. There's the stress of fame. There's what journalists do to you. And I've had a tiny taste of that. And I really fucking don't like journalists now.
Sure.
There's a lot there that would make you, and we as the public can only see them through the filter that the journalists give them. So we're only seeing them when they're interviewed, or the paps have caught them. So you're literally seeing them at their most uptight fucking moment, where they're trying to grin through the fact that they want to murder the person who's interviewing them. And I was like, and then you got people talking shit about you online, and you just thought you were going to be an actor. You just thought you were just going to play roles. No,
man. Dude, just even in a micro level of just making videos for people to comment on, we've reached breaking points with that. I mean, like, it's, I think it just takes people, you just need to be in a somewhat similar position to understand,
It's basic empathy, isn't it? It's like you stand on the outside and it's very easy. You go, that's a have and I'm a have not. So fuck him. He should be smiling and joyous and happy every fucking second he's on camera and super grateful. Yeah. And I'm like, you see that with the young ones, that the lad who plays Spider-Man, Tom Holland. He's so good and he's so sweet and he's so cute, but He's young. He's young as fuck. Wait till you're a middle-aged dude and you've seen all this shit before, and you're just like, ah, fuck. Tom, you know, everybody should fake it. Everybody should just pretend to be like Tom Holland.
Hey, you know who I hate that I empathize with? Models. Bro, like legitimate, not IG models, working models, whether it be fashion shows and whatever the hell else. I've had a taste of this, not even close. But imagine, like,
well, you've been a full-fledged catwalk model, though. It's more than a taste. It's not like a photo shoot. You were a catwalk model.
Sure, whatever. And it's like, so you see it from the outside, just beautiful people that just sit there and take a photo, and that's it. That's it, and they get paid whoever the fuck. Bro, like, you have to go to these castings with the most dehumanizing situation with 30 other people that look almost identical to you, and then they shred apart your fucking body and your face, and you get rejected on the spot that you waited 2 hours to wait in, you know, and then you just get moved around like a fucking object behind the scenes. You have to change out your clothes 2 or 3 fucking times, and like you're malnourished because you got to fit the clothes. And then if you want to be on camera, it's like you're in this like fucking stiff ass, tight ass fucking thing, and you're trying to look sexy. You know, people are dicks on stage, dude. I never want to model ever again. It's like not fucking fun. So it's terrible.
You didn't like the other models, though? Is that what you're saying?
No, surprisingly, I ran into some pretty cool people backstage. Okay. Maybe I was just lucky. I don't know, but I think when you get higher up, you have to deal, and then you got the predatorial elements of it too. And you know,
did you get girls throwing themselves at you? Because if you did, I don't want to hear any complaining.
I had to put some effort in at the time. No, but most of it, everyone's a bit hands off. Like, people are really removed. Like, they're not really chatty. They're not really like.
That's how I imagine. I imagine that it would actually be quite cold.
Yeah,
like a fun,
right. No.
Bantering environment. It's quite snotty, all that stuff, isn't it? It's quite aloof. Yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah, just the little I know of models and the fashion and the bits of fashion that I've seen, I would imagine it would be not aggressive, but like not that. It's not going to be like a bunch of people like, "Oh, you fucking twat, how you doing?" It's not going to be warm and friendly, is it?
No. I don't empathize with TikTok models and stuff, but like the real working cover models and stuff, those are the ones that I feel bad for.
And fuck all the rest of them.
Yeah. All right. I'm sure you're starving.
I am. It's necessary for my career as a model, though. I thought I'd come to it later in life. Do you know what I mean? Got to starve myself. I'm going to eat a twig now and a berry.
Do what you got to do, man. Let me see those cover photos whenever you get them done.
Okay. Shall I sign us off?
Yes. I'm going to. What time is it? Yeah, I'm going to stream on my second channel just for a short amount of time.
Will you let the plushie suckle at your teats? If they go to Pierre Extra, are they going to see the plushie suckle? I think that's worth going to Pierre Extra, folks, just to see the plushie suckle on the teats. Suckle on the teats like a baby calf.
Yeah.
Okay, well, go to Pierre Extra now. You know what you're getting. And thank you very much for being with us here. Thank you for your time and for your attention. And we look forward to speaking to you again very, very soon. Ta-ta.